My brother Jake, M24, and his ex-girlfriend Patricia, F24, started dating in junior year of high school. I, F26, remember the day he first brought her home. He was so nervous about introducing her to our parents that he made me sit through their entire first dinner together for moral support. Patricia was shy but sweet, and by the end of that dinner, Mom was already planning to invite her to our annual beach trip. That was 6 years ago. Since then, Patricia became like the sister I never had. We got coffee together every weekend, went shopping, and she even helped me move into my first apartment. My parents absolutely adored her. Mom would always say that she got lucky because her future daughter-in-law was already her daughter in every way that mattered. Patricia spent every holiday with us, helped Mom cook Thanksgiving dinner, and even learned Dad's secret barbecue sauce recipe, which he wouldn't even share with me. Our extended family loved her too. At every family gathering, my aunts would ask when Jake was finally going to propose. My younger cousins called her Aunt Patricia and would always ask if she was coming to family events. She never missed a single family function in 6 years unless she had hospital rotations she couldn't get out of. Jake and Patricia had their whole future planned out. They wanted to buy a house in Portland next year after Patricia finished her medical residency. They'd been saving up for a wedding, and Patricia had even started looking at venues. Mom and I had secret Pinterest boards full of wedding ideas we'd been collecting. Everything changed 6 months ago when Jake got offered a job at a tech company in Seattle. It was a great opportunity, better pay, better position, chance for growth. Patricia was completely supportive even though it meant doing long distance. She even started researching residency programs in Seattle for next year so they could be together again. The distance wasn't even that bad, just a 3-hour drive. They made plans for alternate weekend visits, and Patricia was okay with doing most of the driving since her schedule was more flexible. The first few months were fine. Jake would drive down to Portland one weekend, and Patricia would go to Seattle the next. They had video calls every night, and Patricia would text me about how much she missed him but how proud she was of him for taking this step in his career. She even surprised him with a care package full of his favorite snacks and a framed photo of them from our last family beach trip. Things started changing about 2 months ago. Jake's texts became less frequent, and he started missing their nightly calls. He blamed it on his new project at work, saying he had to stay late at office. Patricia was worried but tried to be understanding. She even cut back on calling him, saying she didn't want to add to his stress. Jake came home for a weekend in October, and everything seemed normal. He and Patricia went on a dinner date with me and my boyfriend Max. Jake was acting like his usual self, holding Patricia's hand across the table and talking about looking at apartments in Seattle for when she moved there next year. He even asked me to help him look at engagement rings because he was planning to propose on their anniversary in December. Last week, everything fell apart. Patricia found out Jake had been seeing someone from his office named Ashley, F25, for the past 3 months. She discovered this in the worst way possible, through Instagram. Ashley had posted pictures from their office Halloween party on October 28, just days after Jake's visit home. There were photos of them together, his arm around her waist, them making silly faces at the camera, and even one where they were clearly about to kiss. Patricia didn't confront Jake immediately. Instead, she started looking through Ashley's social media and found more pictures going back to August. Jake and Ashley at restaurants, at parks, at outdoor movies, all while he was supposedly working late. There were even pictures of them with other couples, suggesting he had already integrated her into his social circle in Seattle. When Patricia finally confronted Jake, his response was disgusting. He told her she was being paranoid and needed professional help. He said she was imagining things and that Ashley was just a coworker. But the very next day, Ashley posted Instagram stories of her and Jake in Hawaii. The location tag and timestamp showed they were there in early November. During the week, Jake told Patricia he had a business trip in San Francisco. The way Jake ended things was the worst part. He didn't even have the courage to do it face-to-face or over a call. He sent Patricia a text message saying, "I think we should see other people. The distance isn't working for me." 6 years of love and trust ended with a text message. Patricia called me crying so hard I could barely understand her. I immediately drove to her apartment and found her surrounded by photos of her and Jake, trying to understand where it all went wrong. I was furious. I called Jake right there, with Patricia sitting next to me. He tried to justify himself by claiming Patricia had become too clingy and dependent. He said her constant calls and texts made him feel suffocated. But I know that's a lie because Patricia and I talk almost every day, and she had specifically been giving him space because of his work stress. When our parents found out, they were devastated. Mom had to sit down when I told her. She kept saying, "But we were just looking at wedding venues last week." Dad, who usually keeps his emotions in check, had tears in his eyes. He tried calling Jake, but Jake wouldn't answer. Jake finally called back the next day, but only to defend himself. He claimed we were all taking Patricia's side without hearing his story. But what possible story could justify 3 months of cheating and lying? What explanation could make it okay to betray someone who had been part of our family for 6 years? The more I think about it, the more I realize this isn't entirely out of character for Jake. When we were teenagers, he was always lying about small things, where he was going, who he was with. When he was 16, he dated 2 girls from different schools at the same time. I caught him then and made him confess to both girls. He promised he had changed, and I believed him. We all did. Patricia is completely broken. She keeps texting me asking if Jake has mentioned her, if he seems sad, if there's any chance they could work things out. It breaks my heart because I know my brother, this isn't a one-time mistake. He systematically lied and cheated for months. He built a whole separate life in Seattle while stringing Patricia along. Jake is furious that I'm still talking to Patricia. He says I'm betraying him by choosing her side, that blood should be thicker than water. But I can't support someone who could be so cruel, even if he is my brother. Some of our relatives are saying I should stand by Jake no matter what because he's family. But how can I support someone who could throw away 6 years of love and trust like it meant nothing? Ida for choosing to support Patricia and refusing to forgive Jake? Update 1: The situation has gotten much worse since my last post. A lot of you asked for updates, so here's what happened in the past 2 weeks. Jake showed up unannounced at our parents' house last Sunday with Ashley. Mom had invited me and Max over for our usual Sunday brunch, something Patricia used to be part of every week. We were all sitting in the living room when we heard Jake's car pull up. Through the window, we saw him walking up the driveway holding hands with Ashley. Mom's face went completely white. She stood up, walked to the front door, and locked it before Jake could use his key. When he rang the doorbell, Mom opened the door but stood in the doorway, blocking their entrance. Jake actually had the nerve to smile and say, "Mom, I want you to meet someone special." Mom's response was ice cold. She looked at Ashley and said, "I'm sorry, but you're not welcome in my house." "Neither of you are." Jake's smile disappeared immediately. He started arguing, saying he was trying to do the right thing by introducing his new girlfriend to the family. That's when Mom lost it. She told Jake that bringing his affair partner to our family home, where Patricia had spent countless holidays and family dinners, was beyond disrespectful. Jake tried to interrupt, but Mom wasn't finished. She reminded him that just 3 weeks ago, he had sat at our dining table with Patricia, planning their future together. During this confrontation, Ashley's face changed completely. She stepped back from Jake and asked, "What does she mean by affair partner?" Turns out, Jake had fed her a completely different story. He had told her he was single when they met, and that Patricia was just a clingy ex-girlfriend who couldn't let go. Ashley looked genuinely shocked when Mom mentioned Jake and Patricia's 6-year relationship, their plans for marriage, and how Patricia had been part of our family. She turned to Jake and demanded to know if this was true. Jake started stammering, trying to explain that his relationship with Patricia had been practically over when he met Ashley. That's when things got really ugly. Ashley revealed that Jake had been telling everyone at their office that he was single. She had even introduced him to her parents 2 weeks ago. Then Mom, who was still furious, told Ashley about the Hawaii trip, how Jake had lied to Patricia about it being a business trip to San Francisco. Ashley's face went from shock to angry. She said their Hawaii trip was supposed to be romantic because it was their 2-month anniversary. This means Jake was seeing Ashley while actively planning a future with Patricia, even discussing engagement rings with me. The argument that followed was intense. Ashley called Jake every name in the book right there on our front porch. She threw her phone at him, showing everyone within earshot the messages where he had called her the only one for him and talked about their future together. All this while he was still with Patricia. After Ashley stormed off, Jake tried to blame everyone else for ruining his new relationship. That's when Dad, who had been quietly watching everything, finally spoke up. He told Jake to leave and not come back until he learned to take responsibility for his own actions. But it gets worse. The next day, Patricia's friends from the hospital contacted me. Apparently, Jake had been telling people that the real reason for their breakup was Patricia's abusive behavior. He was showing people scratches on his arm, claiming Patricia had attacked him during an argument. He'd even used this story to gain sympathy from Ashley and their co-workers. I was furious because I knew exactly where those scratches came from. On September 15th, Jake had gone rock climbing with his office friends. He had posted Instagram stories that day showing his scratched arm, joking about being attacked by the climbing wall and hashtagging it #beginnersclimbingfail. He had actually left those posts up until Patricia found out about Ashley, then he deleted them. The final blow came when Jake's best friend Tom reached out to me yesterday. Tom has been Jake's friend since middle school, and they still play online games together every week. Tom was carrying a lot of guilt because he knew about Jake's cheating from the beginning. According to Tom, Jake had been on dating apps since July, barely a month after moving to Seattle. He would brag to Tom about matching with different women and going on dates. Tom said he had warned Jake multiple times, telling him to either break up with Patricia or stop seeing other people. Jake's response? He laughed and said Patricia was too trusting and would never find out. Tom showed me screenshots of their conversations where Jake talked about juggling multiple women. He seemed proud of it, like it was some kind of game. Tom finally decided to come clean because he couldn't handle the guilt anymore, especially after seeing how Jake was trying to paint Patricia as the villain. Mom hasn't stopped crying since the confrontation. She keeps looking at old family photos where Patricia is present, photos from holidays and vacations where we all looked so happy. Dad hasn't said much, but I caught him taking down the father-daughter dance playlist he had been making for Jake and Patricia's wedding. Patricia is finally starting to accept reality, especially after learning about the dating apps and other women. But she still has moments where she breaks down, missing the person she thought Jake was. The hardest part for her is realizing that while she was working extra hospital shifts to save money for their future, Jake was using his new salary to wine and dine other women. I'm more convinced than ever that cutting ties with Jake is the right decision. He's not just a cheater, he's a manipulator who tried to destroy Patricia's reputation to cover his tracks. Some of our relatives are still saying I should forgive him because he's family, but I can't. Not after seeing how calculated and cruel his betrayal was. Update 2: I didn't think this situation could get any worse, but here we are. What came to light in the past few days has left our entire family in shock. Yesterday, Patricia came to my apartment in tears, but these weren't the same heartbroken tears from before. She was shaking with anger as she showed me her phone. After the confrontation at our parents' house, Ashley had done some serious digging into Jake's life in Seattle, and what she found was devastating. Ashley discovered that Jake wasn't just dating her while being with Patricia, he had been simultaneously dating at least 3 other women in Seattle. Ashley found them all through various social media connections and created a group chat. Each woman thought she was in an exclusive relationship with Jake. The first woman, Rachel, worked at the same company but in the accounting department. Jake had told her he was divorced and emotionally scarred from his ex-wife's infidelity. He had been dating her since August and had even met her parents during a family dinner. The second woman, Lisa, lived in the apartment next to Jake's. He started talking to her in July, telling her he had just gotten out of a toxic relationship and was ready to start fresh. They had been going on regular breakfast dates before work, which explains why he was always too busy for morning video calls with Patricia. The third woman, Michelle, met Jake at his gym. He told her he was new to Seattle and looking to build genuine connections. They had been dating since September, and he had even promised to take her to Hawaii in December, the same trip he had promised Ashley. In the group chat, these women shared their stories, and the pattern was frightening. Jake had used the same lies with all of them. He showed each woman the same scratch marks, telling them different stories about how his crazy ex had attacked him. He had told each of them that his family was toxic and controlling, which was why he couldn't introduce them yet. He even recycled dates. The restaurant where he took Patricia during his October visit to Portland? He had taken Rachel there the week before and Ashley the week after. The photos he sent Patricia of his lonely nights working late at the office were taken on days he was actually out with Lisa or Michelle. When Ashley compiled all this evidence and threatened to expose him at work, Jake finally broke down and confessed everything to our parents. He showed up at their house last night, crying and making excuses. He claimed he felt like he had missed out on dating experiences because he got serious with Patricia so young. He said moving to Seattle made him feel free for the first time, and he got carried away with the attention he was getting from women. Dad, who had been relatively quiet through this whole ordeal, finally lost it. He told Jake that he had raised him to be a better man than this. Jake tried to play the victim, saying he felt pressured by everyone's expectations about marriage and settling down. That's when Dad kicked him out, saying he shouldn't come back until he got professional help for his compulsive lying. The fallout has been massive. Word got around at Jake's company about his multiple relationships with coworkers. HR got involved because he had used company events to date multiple women in different departments. Ashley and Rachel both filed complaints about hostile work environment. Patricia received messages from all 4 women, apologizing for their unknowing part in Jake's cheating. They all said they felt violated and manipulated, having believed they were in real, exclusive relationships. Michelle even sent Patricia screenshots of Jake's dating app profile, which he had kept active the entire time, even while visiting Patricia in Portland. The most shocking part? Jake had been using money from the joint savings account he shared with Patricia, the account they were saving for their wedding, to fund his dates and trips. Patricia found charges for jewelry, expensive restaurants, and even the Hawaii trip on their shared credit card statement. Mom is beyond devastated. She told me she doesn't recognize the son she raised. She found a birthday card Patricia had given Jake last year, where she wrote about spending their lives together, and it made her physically sick thinking about how Jake was probably with another woman on his birthday this year. Our extended family has finally stopped pressuring me to forgive Jake. After hearing about the multiple women and the calculated lies, even our most forgiving relatives agree that this goes beyond normal family loyalty. My aunt, who had initially told me to stand by Jake, called to apologize after learning the full story. Jake's best friend Tom is still sharing information with us. Apparently, Jake had bragged to him about having the perfect setup in Seattle, saying long-distance relationships were ideal for living a double life. Tom has cut ties with Jake, saying he can't be friends with someone who takes pride in hurting others. Update 3: It's been 3 months since everything blew up, and I finally have what might be the last update to this situation. Jake reached out to me last week, and a lot has changed. Jake lost his job in Seattle. After multiple complaints to HR and the toxic workplace environment he created, the company asked him to resign. He's moved back to Portland and is living in a small apartment on the other side of the city. All 4 women he was dating sent formal complaints to his company, backed with evidence of how he had misused company events and resources to pursue relationships with employees. He showed up at my apartment unannounced last Tuesday. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept properly in weeks. He broke down crying, saying his life had fallen apart. Ashley had shared the entire story on LinkedIn, warning others about workplace manipulation. Now he's struggling to find a new job because the story comes up whenever companies Google his name. Jake claimed he's been seeing a therapist for the past 2 months. He said he's been diagnosed with some issues related to compulsive lying and fear of commitment. While I'm glad he's getting help, it's hard to feel sympathetic when I think about how methodically he hurt Patricia and those other women. He begged me to help him repair his relationship with our family. Mom and Dad still won't let him come to the house. They had to explain to our younger cousins why Uncle Jake wasn't at Thanksgiving, and why Patricia still was. That's right, Patricia still comes to family events. Mom insisted she's still her daughter, regardless of what Jake did. Patricia is doing much better now. She's focused on her residency and recently got approved for a fellowship program at our hospital. She's also been spending time with one of the attending physicians, Dr. Mike. They started getting coffee together during breaks, and he seems to treat her with genuine respect and kindness. This is driving Jake crazy. He found out about Dr. Mike through mutual friends and tried to warn Patricia about getting involved with someone at work, the irony of which wasn't lost on anyone. Patricia blocked his number after that message. What really showed me Jake hasn't changed as much as he claims is his reaction to finding out that Mom still invites Patricia to Sunday brunch. He threw a fit, saying it was inappropriate and that Mom was choosing Patricia over her own son. Mom finally snapped and told him that Patricia had earned her place in our family through years of love and loyalty, while Jake had thrown away everyone's trust for a few months of excitement. The women from Seattle still keep in touch with Patricia. They formed a kind of support group and even met up for dinner when Rachel was in Portland for work. They've all moved on with their lives, but they wanted Patricia to know that Jake's behavior wasn't a reflection on her. He had manipulated all of them with practiced skill. I told Jake I'm willing to slowly rebuild our relationship, but things will never be the same. He needed to understand that his actions had permanent consequences. He destroyed not just his relationship with Patricia, but also the trust our entire family had in him. When he started crying about how alone he feels, I reminded him that he had a family, a loving girlfriend, and a bright future, and he chose to throw it all away. The hardest part of all this is watching my parents struggle. Mom still tears up when she passes by Patricia's favorite bakery, remembering their wedding cake tasting plans. Dad took down all the photos of Jake from the living room because he said he couldn't recognize his son in them anymore. Patricia told me yesterday that she's finally stopped checking Jake's social media. She said she's realized that the Jake she loved never really existed, he was just a character he played while living his double life. As for me, I'm keeping my distance from Jake while trying to be supportive of his therapy journey. Some trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired.